So for my video project, I decided to choose topic number 2. The first thing I was asked was compare and contrast job order costing and process costing. Uh, the, Although they're two different things, they do share some similarities. And the ultimate goal of both is to determine the cost per unit of a product, and they both start by collecting the three same costs, and that's direct materials, direct labor, and overhead. From these costs that are collected, they move into work in process accounts, and from there on to finished goods. So those are the similarities that the two share. The differences are when they're moved from the costs that are accumulated onto the work in process. Um, so for process costing, they use standardized production. So that's mass production of the same kind of similar product. Um, Whereas in job order costing, it's customized production. So it's going to be a product that's customized to a specific consumer's needs, something that a consumer wants specially made just for them. That's the big difference between the two. After the costs are collected in the process costing system, they're moved into multiple work in process accounts or departments. So, for example, a golf ball is all the costs are accumulated and collected, and then it moves into Department 1, and that could be making the middle of the golf ball, and then in Department 2 could be putting on the outer layer and painting it, and then Department 3 could be, putting the little label on it and packaging it, and then it's moved on to finished goods. Um, and in that job order costing, all the costs are accumulated and for based off that one job. Whereas in process costing, the costs are they accumulate costs based on each process. So in this little chart, it shows the similarity. So they both start with the direct materials, direct labor, and overhead, and they both kind of move on to these two work in process accounts and then on to finished goods. But the difference is in job order costing, it moves on just to one job, the product is made, and it's on to finished goods. Whereas in the process costing, part of the product is made, and then it moves on to a different production line, and then maybe the rest of the product is made, and then it's on to finished goods. So those are the similarities and differences between the two.
So a good example of a company that would use process costing is Coca-Cola. They mass produce, large numbers of the exact same product, but they all have to start by collecting their direct materials, direct labor, and their overhead. Once the costs are all collected and everything, then they can move on to the first stage of production, and that would be the mixing department. And in the mixing department, that's where all the water, sugar, everything's mixed together to make the liquid for the drink. From here, we can move on to the bottling department where, glass bottles are filled with liquid that was just made in the mixing department, and caps are put on and the labels are thrown on. From here, they can even move down into the inspection department where the bottles are inspected for no defects, no cracked glass, no torn label or anything like that. Once they pass through there, then they can go into the finished goods. Once a company or once like a store, or if a consumer buys the product, then it's moved into the cost of goods account. Men's Warehouse is a company that makes and sells suits. They do mass produce a lot of the same stuff, but they also have customer orders where they want customized suits that are tailored specific just to their body type and everything. So this is when they would use job order costing systems. So just like the other system, they have to first start by collecting their direct materials, the direct labor, and their overhead. From here, they move on to just one production department, and that's going to be the production of the tailored suit. And once the suit and everything is all made, then it's moved into finished goods, and when the customer picks it up, it is moved into the cost of goods sold account. So the big main difference between process costing and this job order costing is when you get to the production side of the product, there's only one department here in the job order costing, just one. And from here, it's moved on to finished goods, whereas in the process costing, they went through multiple departments and then on to finished goods.
So the third thing the topic asks is define activity-based costing. Activity-based costing, it attempts to more accurately assign cost to overhead by focusing on activities rather than departments.
So within these activities, there's many factors that influence or kind of contribute to the expense of making that product. Um, and these are known as cost drivers. So using the example earlier from Coca-Cola cost drivers within the company, I've picked out four. So for the first one, cost drivers in Coca-Cola might be the machine hours used to bottle the liquid. So for when it goes in from the mixing department to the bottling department, the machine hours used to actually bottle the liquid is going to be a cost that's incurred. For the second one, the salary paid to the inspector to check for defaults. So that's defaults within the bottles. For the third one, it's the amount of returned products. So how much does it cost the company when you have a certain amount of products that are being returned? And for the last one, maintenance of the machines. You have to pay to get them repaired. So you got to pay, people to come in and work on the machines, make sure they're still running and everything. So those are kind of four basic cost drivers that would be in the Coca-Cola company. So last but not least, we have equivalent units of production. Two kind of questions that are raised with this is why do we use them and what do they represent or what are they used for? So the reason we use them is because companies typically end their period and they'll still have inventory accounts in the work in process and the finished goods. So they'll have a lot of started but not yet completed products. So the way to kind of formulate the equivalent units of production is, for example, we're going to use the Coca-Cola one. So we're going to say that we have 100,000 bottles that are still in the working process and they're only 60% complete. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your 100,000 and you're going to multiply it by the 60% in decimal form. And that leaves you with 60,000 bottles. So this is basically saying that the cost to put $100,000 bottles that are 60% complete through the entire production process is equivalent to just putting 60,000 bottles through the entire production process. So that's kind of why we use them. That's what they represent. Is they help companies realize, how much their costs are gonna be to finish a product when their period is already up.